All right.
Yeah. Again, sorry again for the delay, but I think we were just, well, we'll start from the beginning, actually, probably better. Got cut off in the middle there.
Okay.
Like I was saying before, I'll try not to let you being a Nittany Lion and me being a Buckeye try to come between us for the next 20 minutes or so. But
Yeah.
tell me about how you kind of got to Penn State. I know coming out of high school, you were a four-star recruit, probably had a
hmm
bunch of schools coming after you. How did you eventually choose Penn State?
Uh, well, it started. Well, as a matter of fact, if I rewind, uh, freshman year, I got pulled up on varsity, which was a huge deal for me. And I ended up going up there and starting at defensive tackle initially, and then a couple of games after that, I played tight end. Where the coach asked me, "Hey, can you block?" And they found out I could block real well, so they put me at tight end. And from there, well, in my mind, I thought I was going to be a tight end, but my O line coach had other plans for me. So going into my sophomore year, we had a good year. We get to the state championship. Um, uh, Larry Johnson, who was the defensive line coach at the time, who's now at Ohio State, um, was recruiting this area, and we played against a team called Linganore. I guess they had signed a guy um, from that team. They saw the game and they liked what they saw, and they met me and my dad in the hallway or in the tunnel going back into the locker room, and they told me we'll be in touch. And then the following spring, we heard from them, and knowing that they were interested, and we had been watching Penn State stuff for a long time prior, Penn State football story for a long time, and it was just we were just in awe when they reached out to us and said they wanted to pursue us, to pursue me in football. So that came, and then all the other schools kind of followed suit. Um, wasn't much as me selling myself because the tape spoke for itself. And once one school offered, then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. Um, I think in the back of my mind, I always knew I wanted to go to Penn State, but of course, I wanted to check out the other schools, which it was a tough decision. But I think when it came down to it, when I went to a game, just being around there, the atmosphere, it was it was nothing beyond amazing. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you grow up and you have a certain team that you're watching or following, it's almost like you go to that team over any other team, no matter what they throw at you. There's always that special place in your heart or whatever that any other team can't really match. And for you, that would be Penn State, I'm assuming. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So did they recruit you? Because I know you mentioned you were playing offense and defense in high school at some point. Did they recruit you
Uh,
as, was it? I think
uh, both.
both. Yeah, they recruited you as both.
I think all schools recruit me as both. So initially, most guys that get recruited that way, they always gravitate towards the defensive side. But I got known for offense, so I said, let me stick with this offense. I think because usually, I was quick enough to play maybe D tackle, DN, but I kind of saw myself playing the O line, which is unheard of for most guys. That they'll just gravitate towards the defense. But everybody that recruited me liked me both sides, but
Hmm.
I just gravitated towards the offense.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I mean, when you like you watch college or professional football right now, a lot of the offensive linemen aren't too well known, right? A lot of the D linemen, like you'll have like Jadavian Clowney or some outside rushers, like Von Miller or something. They're the more
Yeah.
well known guys, but there's not too many offensive linemen that are really well known and have kind of that celebrity status in NFL. So it's interesting to have somebody's perspective where they had the option to play both, but they chose the offensive line over the defensive line.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it. I think it was just more of like because I was pretty quick, and I could pull and run block, and pass block and stuff. I just love pulling, and I just got a thrill out of that. Like every time the play was called in high school, pulling, like I was looking to get 2 or 3 blocks, down the field. So that excited me. Defense excited me too, but I think offensively, like they knew when I pulled, either they had two options. They was going to take me on or get out the way. So, I enjoyed that like a whole lot. So
Yeah.
I think
And
that's
I
what
think
I
it's
like.
important too, if someone else was going through something similar, to choose the one that, deep down, you truly enjoy versus maybe the one that you think you can make more money with later down the road, or maybe something that you have more fame with. I think, like you said, it really comes down to what your passion is and what you truly enjoy the most that will really set you up in the best position to succeed going forward.
Yeah.
What was um what was your first day walking into Penn State campus like, knowing, this is your childhood team kind of, and it's almost like you reached really your goal of football at that time. Um, what were some of the things that you were thinking about when you first got to Penn State?
Uh, when I got there, I wouldn't say it was a bit overwhelming because I got kind of used to, like, because I got interviewed a whole lot and um, just going to big places, different stuff. It was like a breath of fresh air. I was like, I'm here now. Now it's like, okay, now I got to start all over again. It's the big man on campus at high school. Now you're back down to the totem pole. You're back down there. So, I figured I was going to come in there, full head of steam and make sure, I listen to the coaches. And main thing, just be coachable and, uh, do just do everything I can to, make sure they made the right selection and like, okay, this guy, he's ready because I've seen a lot of guys come in there and not really be prepared and they couldn't handle it and either something here and there happened. But I was, yeah, I was excited. I was
Mm-hmm.
real excited when I first stepped in there. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I did a podcast a couple of weeks ago with one of my buddies that played university football up here in Canada, and we talked a bit about coming into, when you're a freshman, you're coming into a new team, a whole bunch of players that most of them you've never really played with or heard of before. And we
Mhm.
kind of talked a bit about how you kind of develop that team chemistry. And we talked a bit, about going out, maybe some partying here and there and stuff like that. How, when you walked into the team of a bunch of new guys, how did you yourself kind of make yourself one of the boys kind of thing, or develop some of that team chemistry with the other players? And on top of that, how much of an impact did that, make not only on the team, but maybe you getting used to being away from home and stuff like that?
Now the main thing about being away from home, I went to a lot of camps. I did a lot of stuff away from home, so I never got really homesick. Like I thought about home, but I did pick up the phone and say, I need to come back. So I was never really home. I never got homesick, which was good. And then the chemistry with the guys, of course, everybody walks in there when that first meeting happens. Everybody's squaring each other up and looking at each other up and down. Um, it was a few guys on there that till this day I'm pretty cool with. Off and on if I see them around or if even on Facebook or Instagram or something like that, we chat or something like that. And I think a few in arena ball, I played against a couple of them. So it, uh, especially going into college, at the time, Penn State had a system, and at the time, Coach Paterno used to let the coaches coach. So they had a system in place for 10, 15 years that, okay, this is what we run, this is what we do. So, hey, you had to get on board and we do it like this, blah, 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 blah. So, a couple of guys on the team, it was a learning process because there was a few things I've never heard before, and then a few things I uh, have heard before. So it kind of helped me down the road as far as like uh, now because I coach. Well, right now I'm coaching high school football, so and I take everything I learn. Same thing when I play arena ball. I take everything I learn and put it to if I'm teaching somebody or if I'm playing, put that into what I'm doing. So I've learned like different things, being in different places. So yeah, it's been very interesting as far as
Hmm.
like just different guys that you might have seen their tape, but when you meet them in person, that I mean everybody was cool, everybody, when they came in. So
College is, I always find college, and even, pro football to that matter, but more so in college, where it's an interesting kind of team makeup where you got guys that are buddies and friends and whatnot, but they're
hmm
still fighting for that starting position in some instances, right? Did
yeah,
you kind of go through something like that as well, where there might have been a friend of yours on the team and you're both fighting for the same spot? And it's hard to sometimes, I would imagine, balance, being cheering for the other guy, but also kind of wanting that place yourself.
yeah, because matter of fact, the guy I talked about earlier that went to Linganore, he was being recruited because he played tight end and D tackle. So when Penn State recruited him, he came in as a D tackle. Now, before I had got there, he had been on defense. Then they had switched him to offense. Then they switched him back to defense. And then some injuries went down. They switched him back. So I was, at the time, I was second team. I was the second guard, but they had him because at the time he was a senior. He was kind of rotating with the ones. So, and he could play too. And thing he was getting frustrated was, okay, he's playing well, but then the previous game they're starting the other guy. And then in my case, and in my mind, I already know I'm better than those two in front. So I got to kind of sit back and like try to keep the senior up. Like, hey man, keep your head up, keep going, cheering him on. But also, I'm preparing myself in case if anything happens, somebody goes down. Then it's my number because I thought I was always ready to go. But I mean, it was a bit of conflict uh, at that time because we had a senior. He was just injury prone and he ended up being out for the whole year. So they moved some guys around. And the other senior I speak of wasn't, and I frustrated was getting him work my way in there to get time too, because practice is better than the guy there. They'll put you in there to see how you play against the ones, or there's a lot of times the second team will go against the first team defense, and then the first team offense will go against the second team defense. So you got that game speed, so everybody was ready to go if you had to go in. So I mean, it was a bit of conflict at the time because he was like, "Okay, you guys gonna play me or not?" And then in my mind, I knew I was better than the guys there, but you know, sometimes they go with the guys that's been there. We had like fifth year seniors. I think we have three or four fifth year seniors playing, so they were flipping them back and forth, and I'm trying to get in there too. And they knew I could do it, and then when I did get in there, they saw what I could do. So
Hmm.
it's tough, but you know, it's a part of the game. So you can't
Yeah,
really, yeah.
yeah, it's just kind of part of what you're signing up for college football. And I would think that, when you mentioned you're in the position where you thought that you were better than so and so and that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. And I mean, Joe Paterno is clearly a Hall of Fame level coach, a legendary coach, and you got to kind of trust his opinion in that standpoint. But I think at the same time, there's probably a little bit of intimidation factor going up to Joe Paterno and being like, "Play me, coach, play me," and kind of going against what he's thinking.
Yeah, yeah. Now the thing about him, because everybody think he was so strict, which he was, but um, it was fundamentals with him. Like things I've heard when I was little, up until high school. I mean, he kept it. He let the coaches coach, but if he went to speak, everybody got called. Like, because he talked, you had to be real quiet to hear him talk. And then a lot of guys on the team would say, "Hey, can you speak up, coach?" And then he would get a little bit louder. But when he talked, everybody got quiet. That's how much respect he had. So you would think he would say something amazing, which, and then like stuff he say, I was like, man, I heard that before. But just coming from him, it sounds different. So the main thing was if he didn't forget your name, that was good. If he
Yeah.
forgot your name, that's bad. He would always like stand behind the offensive line, like he'll walk around all the positions. If I do something, Walton, Walton, you got, and then he'll get down in his stance and show you. Like it
Yeah.
was so funny how he did it. He was like, "You gotta get in." Like it was so funny, like how he would do it. But he would say, "Hey, Walton, keep it up." And the coaches always said, if he doesn't forget your name, that that's a good thing. If he does, that's bad. So
Yeah.
I'm glad he remembered my name. So yeah.
Yeah. How much or how much of an influence is he to, your coaching career you're doing right now in high school football? What were some of the main takeaways you took away from him, not only related to the football field, but just because in high school you're not only coaching football players, you're coaching boys and trying to teach them to be men, right? So what kind of lessons did you learn from Joe Paterno on that front?
I think the main thing is be accountable, be on time, um, hustle, um, uh, work hard. I guess he say it's what you do when nobody's looking. The time you put in is what you get out. So I try to reflect that onto the guys now. I'm more of a players coach, so I'll joke with them, and then at a flick of a snap of fingers, I could get serious. So I think everybody on the team respects me, and they know if I say something, I mean it. It's not like because I've done it and I know what it takes to get there, and a lot of them are trying to get to that next level. Which we have a few guys who can do it, who can get to that next level, and I just try to tell them. A lot of the kids now don't know how to be coachable. Um, as far as when a coach critiques them or gets on them, then they want to say something back to you, or they got an excuse. Sometimes you just got to take it. That's what I learned.
Mhm.
Even if you're right, the coach is going to get on you about something. You can't shut down or get mad, slam your helmet. You got to take it because the coach is going to say, "Oh, I can get on him." He's not going to flip out. He's going to take the criticism, get better, and move on. So that's what we're trying to teach some of them. Some of the kids now. Some of them are respectful, still trying to, hey, we speak. It's this, and that. We're not telling you to hurt you. We're telling you to make you better. So I think that's what helped with Penn State. They were so strict on stuff. Tucking your shirt in games. If a shirt was hanging out, like one trainers would come up and tuck your shirt in. Like we had to be. Uh, like I got a beard now. We couldn't have a beard. We had to shave this. They wanted everybody clean cut, and that's just how they did it there. And I didn't mind that at all. You had to look presentable because everywhere you go, hey, it's safe football, blah 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 blah. So
Yeah.
we try to go about that way the same way, with the team I help coach now. So you know,
I think even it's not only just being presentable, the things he talked about. I think sometimes coaches do that to kind of, see who has the mental strength to kind of follow these rules and who are the weak ones that won't if they can't do these simple things like shave a beard and dress nicely
hmm
and be, clean shaven, how do you expect them to perform mentally, on a football field kind of thing, right?
Yep, exactly. Because
Yeah.
I was kind of I was I was kind of brought up like that because my dad had coached me from when I was little all the way up to high school. Now, when I got to high school, my offensive line coach had played in the NFL for about 10 plus years. So I was kind of ahead of the curve. I mean, we was already doing like pro stuff, and he kind of was teaching us, getting me ready for the next level. So I was hearing it from two people. I would hear it at practice, and then when I get home, I had to hear it again. So I was used to like the yelling and blah blah blah. I knew how to take it. Some kids now don't know how to take it, and I think a lot of kids need it because it football it makes you tough and it makes you grow up, and that's what I think a lot of kids, even if they don't get to the next level, which is all right, but if it helps them be person, a better person all around, and a better football player, that's good.
Yeah.
So
And I think that things like that, teaching kids how to be mentally tough and everything, and accepting criticism and all the things you mentioned, I think the earlier you're able to kind of instill that in them, the better it is. The longer you wait, the more of kind of they have patterns that they develop, or more like things they're used to. So
hmm
when they get to university or even the pros, and it's the first time that somebody's expecting these certain things from them, some of
hmm
them they just kind of crack under the pressure because it's just not what they've been brought up to be expected to do.
yeah,
So I
and
think
it's
high school is really the perfect time to really ramp it up, like you were saying, really ramp it up, and teach them what discipline and all that kind of stuff is.
yeah, 'cause they're gonna like when they get to college, it's gonna be way worse. Like when you get out there, you're kind of a number because there's 100 some people out there, and you get lost in the fold. So you gotta train hard, work out hard, and then stand out when you get on the practice field because that's where they see you and they think you can do something. And if you be in that first or second team, that's good. Because they see, okay, what can he do for us now? Not what he already did. What can you do for me now? So, and the same thing. It's a mental game. And the same thing like preparing for a game because you're thinking even days before the game. I play the game in my head days and days before, like, okay, I'm gonna do this, on this, and then when the game gets there, um, it gets easier um, because you played it in your head 1,000 times, and then once you go out there and do it, you're like, you can anticipate, okay, I'm doing this, starting this way, or make sure I get my head across, make sure my feet are right, my hands are right, like all the little stuff. Because most people think, oh, you just go out there and play. Like it's nerve wracking,
Yeah.
especially waiting to play, especially like a late game or early game. It's all the same because the main thing it's I always get nervous. It's most of like I'm not scared. It's just I want to do so good, do everything perfect. Although it's hard to get perfection, but that's what we all search for to get. Play a perfect game to the point where they look at the tape and it's, oh, he did this good, he did this good, he did this good. But they always find something that you can always do better on tape. So the mental side of the game is big because same thing for a quarterback. If he's not there mentally, it's gonna be a bad day. That's the
Yeah.
same thing with any position. If you're not there mentally, if you check out, I mean you're gonna have a bad day. Or, get yourself hurt.
Yeah. You said that you kind of you want every game to go perfect, and you try to hold yourself to that high, you know, athletic
Yeah.
level of excellence kind of thing. When the game doesn't go perfectly, how do you kind of wrestle with that after the game and reflecting on it? How do you kind of move past it, I guess?
Uh, well, it's tough in some games because you're like, on this play, I should have did this, I should have did that. Then when you look at the tape, you're like, okay, okay, I could do this better. But I mean, there's some games where you should have done better, and it just kind of beats at your head for a couple of days. Like some people can get over it in a day. Like even uh, we had a high school game last night, and my team is really good. We should have won. We lost 21-14, and I'm still mad. I'm okay now, but I try to do other things to distract my like watch a funny movie, play video games, do something else to distract me. But when I'm done with that and I go to the bathroom or something, I think about a play like, we should have did this. So it takes days to get over maybe a bad performance or a bad loss or something like that. It takes a couple of days. So by the time next week comes, okay, I'm on to the next team. All right, I looked at the tape. I did everything I was supposed to do. All right, move on. We get better. Move on to the next team. So I give it a couple of days and then I let it go.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Moving forward, are you putting more of a focus on playing football or coaching football?
Well, I coach to stay involved in the game. I'm still gonna play because I feel like I got a whole lot left in the tank to play. So um, I want to see because I know some of the arena ball down here has started like free agency, and I know the XFL down here is going to start up in February. So I'm speaking to a few people that's trying to help me get that opportunity for that, even CFL too. So yeah, I'm planning to play, um,
Yeah.
keep playing. So I do a little bit of both, just to stay involved in the game, keep my mind sharp. So yeah.
And then after your playing career is over, can you see yourself being more of a coach full time for football, or would football kind of be ending there?
Nah, I would probably because this is my fifth year coaching
Oh
high
wow.
school. So
Hmm.
yeah, because I've been going back and forth with arena ball and football because it's in the winter time, so the football's in the fall. So yeah, I can see myself doing it because I'm an O line coach and a D line coach, and I can see myself when it's all said and done coming back and doing it, and possibly being a head coach somewhere. You know, because we've kind of been been breaded to do it, and I think I'm almost there. I think I need a couple years or so before I'm really ready to take on the head coaching spot. But I'm happy coaching the offensive line, defensive line, because that's all I have to focus on.
Yeah,
Everything
that's
I have to
that's your
do
expertise.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Before I let you go, can you share one funny or maybe one story of Joe Paterno people wouldn't really associate that with him, knowing, like you said, his kind of perception, he's such a strict guy and kind of almost mean mugging. You have a funny story of Joe Paterno that you can share?
Uh, I might have two. Okay, one. Now, one of them, I wasn't there, but my parents was. Okay, I'll tell that story. They Penn State has a fight song. Of course, nobody on the football team knows the fight song. You know, some
Mhm.
schools are required to know the fight song, but I think we was up there on the visit and around December or something like that, and my mom and dad went. A bunch of the parents went to Paterno's house, him and his wife, and I guess they were singing Christmas carols. And my mom and dad told me Paterno was sitting on the floor watching. I think they was watching some team play that we possibly had to play in the Rose Bowl or whatever. Um, no, this before I got to Penn State, so it might have been Orange Bowl or something like that. I think Florida State or something. So he's sitting there, and then he gets up, starts singing Christmas carols, and then my mom and dad are like looking around, like, "Oh man, Joe Turner's singing." And then I guess some people from the band came over, and they started to play the fight song, and he starts singing the fight song. So he knows a little bit of the words, and then he's mumbling it. He's like, huh, 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 huh. And then it gets to the one point where it's like, fight, fight, fight. And then he like screams it, and then
Yeah,
he
yeah.
starts mumbling the rest of the words. So uh, they said they cracked up. And the crazy thing about it, my dad told me, because my dad always records everything. he had his camera. He was holding his camera the whole time, and he
Mhm.
and he didn't record it. He said they were just caught up in the moment, and
Yeah.
he wish they would have recorded because
Mhm.
that'd be something nice to have on tape. And
That's a 2 or 3 million view on YouTube video.
yeah, and then okay, the last one was 2 weeks prior. I told the recruiting coordinator, I said, I'm coming to Penn State. I'm going to sign. And then they said, we're going to hold off. We're not going to tell Paterno until he comes to visit. Now, he doesn't come and visit a lot. He stopped doing it for like 15 years to 20. But he came to our house, and lucky enough, the electricity cuts off in our house. And luckily, it was nice outside. So we open up all the windows, and he recruiting both coaches come and Paterno comes. They come in the house, and then my dad invites family and friends because either he wanted to come to the school or come to the house. I said, nah, he can come to the house. And then, like, I have family and friends over there, people that never met him, people that wanted to meet him. So they met him and shook hands. My mom had this platter and stuff out. So, long story short, we had basically, I was going to tell him I was going to come to Penn State. Now, at this time, he knows nothing. He thinks it's still between Nebraska and West Virginia as far as like the final schools. So he knows nothing. The other two coaches know I'm coming. So I pulled my mom to the side uh, and said, okay, we're going to tell him. And I kind of thought it up in my head how I was going to say it. So he was talking, he was there for about 2 hours. It was talking, and then I walked in and I said, hey, Paterno. I said, I got some good news and I got some bad news. I said, the bad news, I'm not going to go to Nebraska. I said, the good news, I'm going to come to Penn State. And then he jumped out of he couldn't get out of the seat quick enough. He was
Yeah.
like, oh, and then like he gave me a hug, and then he got down in his 3 point stance. He said, all right, we're ready to go. And then he came off and tried to like block me and whatnot. Like everybody started laughing. So like that had to be like one of the best days ever. I mean, he knew nothing. The coaches didn't say anything for 2 weeks. And
Yeah.
I had told him prior that I was coming. But he was like, we want you to tell him in person. I said, okay. And he was so excited, got in his 3 point stance, and he was trying to come off and block me and stuff like that. It was so funny. So those are good memory.
Yeah, that's a crazy, even just to think about, like, I'm trying to picture Joe Paterno right now, just in a stranger's house almost, just going to 3 point stands, ready to play football right there in the living room.
I mean, people don't believe that he came to our house, and he did. I have pictures, which we took a picture with him, and I have videos. So my dad was recording, so we have video. So
Yep.
it looks like the video. I guess the camera we were using at the time, it looks so clear, like it was shot yesterday. And
Hmm.
I mean, that was amazing. Just so many coaches I met. He was probably the most iconic one. Just to sit and talk with him. I wasn't. It wasn't more so I was nervous. It was you know, I talk because I've been talking to a lot of coaches. It was just a little different with him. He kept it. He told his story of how he got to Penn State. He said he damn near seen the stadium get built from the ground up. So, um, yeah, he's real funny. He
Yeah.
outside football, he's funny, man.
He's a funny guy. Like I said, people's perception of him is more of this mean mugging kind of strict old school coach. But then when you hear stories like this, you kind of realize he's almost like a kid at heart when it comes to football. He still has that passion for football, and
Yeah, he still
yeah.
takes at that time. He still took notes. When the season was over, he would go back and write down notes of, okay, what should we do? What position should we look at? Blah, blah, blah. He did it every year, and
Mm.
he would always pull out this notepad. Whatever he was writing on it, put it back in his pocket. So he would always take notes.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Anyways, JB, thanks again for taking the time to do this. Really
Yeah.
enjoyed your story and kind of the perspective you gave on your journey through high school and through Penn State.
Yep. Yeah, I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah, man. Anyways, have a good one.
Okay, you too.